Okay, so here we have the second part of the fruit salad animation project. So I'm going to import the Photoshop file that we made, which is called Fruit PSD. And I'm going to have a couple of options here to import as footage, composition, or composition retain layer sizes. So I'm going to import as retain layer sizes, and what that means is that each layer will be cut out all the way to the edge of every single pixel, and then a pivot point will be put into the middle, which is very handy, and it means that we can rotate them and spin them and do lots of different things, knowing that their pivot point has already been done for us. If we did composition, then it meant that the whole shape of the file would have a central pivot point, and these objects would float within that layer, and it would make things a little bit more complicated. Sometimes you need that, but sometimes you don't, and after some more experience you understand when you need that. So I'm just going to import retain layer sizes. It's going to ask me a few options. It'll ask me again if I want to do that, and I want to say yes, and it will say, do you want to have editable layer styles? And that's things like drop shadows and colouring and stuff like that. So I'm going to just keep everything as is. So go OK. So I double click on my footage, here it is. Nothing much is happening. This is a 10-second sequence, but if you need to, you should change it. You go composition settings, and then you can change it for whatever you want. But 10 seconds is good for me, and too long, it gets boring, too short, you don't see anything. But I think 10 seconds is about right. So, first things first, I'm going to do some animation. So I'm going to take, say, the kiwi, and I'm going to solo it. Soloing means that you just concentrate on that layer. The other layers are still there, but I'm just concentrating on one layer. And it just means that everything runs a little bit faster. So I'm going to animate the scale. Go to 1 second, make the scale 100, go to 0, and make it 0. So now that scales up from 0 to 100 over 1 second. I'm going to forward a few frames. If you press this, it will create a keyframe of whatever value these are at the current time. So if I went here, 58.3, and I press that, then it would make a keyframe at 58.3. So I'm going to go here to 103, and I'm going to make that 100. And this one, probably 107. So it just means that when it scales up, gets bigger, goes down again, and maybe even bigger. Let's go crazy, go up to 160. And then I can put in a couple of bounce frames, say 107, and then back to 100. So I'm going to take that, copy V. So now it's just going to like that. It's just a very, very simple bounce animation. It's probably a bit quick, or a bit slow. I mean, I'm just going to speed that up a bit so it looks a bit more exciting. And then I can take that, I can Control copy, and then select all my other layers and paste. So now, if I unsolo this layer, all of these are going to come up. And what I want to do is I want to do something called a concertina animation. So I'm going to take all of these, which are like footage files in Premiere, and I'm just going to shift them along a couple of frames. It doesn't have to be too accurate because the effect works whatever. It just creates kind of an illusion that things are kind of building on a little bit. They're being constructed. So now once I've done that, all of these things come on at different times. And it just gives it a little bit more life. So if I were to preview that, we're already starting to see a little bit of what our final animation looked like. So the next thing that needs to be tackled is probably the colour of fruit salad. So I'm going to find a way of changing that. If I go into effects and colour correction and change colour, I'm going to pick that, and that colour is black. But I could use the eyedropper tool and pick whatever colour I wanted, but it's black. Let's not deny the fact that it is black. And so now I can change the lightness of that, and I can change the saturation, we can change colours and stuff. But I think I'm going to go for white. because that's what our final one looked like, and I think it looked pretty good. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to make these things 3D. So I'm going to grab them all, and here is a 3D layer. And if you turn that on, it makes all of these 3Ds, and so you get an extra. So instead of X and Y, you now get a Z, so you can move these things backwards and forwards. The thing is that we haven't got a camera, so we need to create a camera. We go New and Camera, or you can go up to here and New Layer Camera. And it'll give it lots of crazy options because you can create, whatever kind of camera you want. 35mm is fine. That's most normal film cameras are 35mm. And so now we've got a camera. So when we go to this, which is called the Unified Camera Tool, and we spin around, it spins around our object because we have a camera. So I'm going to set that. So I'm going to create before I do any moving of these objects in 3D space, I'm going to animate the camera beforehand. It just makes it a bit easier. And I'm not going to do it at 0 so I can see exactly where all my objects are in relation to the animation. So I'm going to change the position. So let's start off maybe like that. And then let's end, in fact maybe let's end like that. Let's start like this. So now if you spool forward, it's a pretty simple animation. And now I can take these keyframes and I can move them down here. So when I spool along here and I preview it, and I get that animation, which looks nice. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a tiny bit of a tilt there just to make it a little bit better. And then this keyframe I'm going to soften, so I'm going to go into my graph editor and I'm just going to soften it a little bit. So, so that when I preview it, it will come to a soft stop. This makes it a little bit more graceful. So now I can start moving these objects back in Z space. So when I click on an object, it will give you these arrows, which is Y, X, and Z. And so now I can start arranging them. So I'm going to grab the fruit salad and I'm going to start moving that forward. There we go. And I'm going to grab these watermelons, so I'm going to start moving those backwards. And this is a little bit fiddly, and it's not completely intuitive, but I can make it easier by changing the camera, because at the moment I'm in an active camera, and because it's 3D, you can go front, left, top, back, whatever. So I'm going to go custom view, and so when I use a camera tool now, I rotate, but here's my camera, that's the camera that's in my composition. So I'm not affecting that. So now I can arrange these objects maybe slightly easier, because I can find a nice angle to select objects and move them in 3D space. I'm going to take magic, nice. It's not really that magic, it's mainly annoying. So that's why I keep zooming in and out. PCs don't have this problem. They have an advantage in that. So I've got these labeled, so it's pretty easy to select them from the in the composition window, rather than doing it like this, because they're labeled. Labeling is very important. So now, when I play my animation, there we go. And it's that simple.